Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the No Seeing Journals. In today's episode, we're going to talk to my good friend Omar Avalos. Omar is a flamenco guitarist, composer, and performer from Orange County, California. He actually resides at the moment between Mexico and California, but he's originally from here. Now, in this episode, you're going to hear him talk about the importance of names and historical figures and his influences in his music. And aside from that, you're going to see two performances from him. So I hope you enjoy the show, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, so what's up, Omar?
Back at it.
Back at it. Take two, huh? No, so yeah, tell us a bit about yourself.
My name is Omar Avalos Gallegos. I'm a flamenco guitarist from the Southern California area.
What got you into music? How did you start off your musical journey?
So I had quite the musical childhood, starting with very early on, playing records and things like Cri Cri and Cepillín, for example.
Yeah. Did you grow up in a musical family? Were your parents musical or?
Inclined, not studious, but they were good at singing songs and harmonizing each other in a natural way. Yeah.
So when did you get your first guitar?
My first guitar was 8, but I didn't take it seriously until later on.
Was that your first instrument, or?
I believe before that I had an accordion. It was a school accordion.
Oh, okay, yeah. Cool. So you started when you were 8 years old, and from there, when did you really start taking it serious?
Guitar I didn't take seriously until I was about 13, but formally in terms of repertory until I was 16. Yeah.
So you picked it up at 8, and what did you do with it? You just kind of fiddled with it, played?
Yeah, I didn't take it seriously at all. I had other instruments in between to fill.
Oh, okay.
I'll be honest with you, I discovered Guns N' Roses too early on in life.
Oh, so you started more with
and so I'm watching people thrash their guitars, and I thought that was cool. So big mistake. Yeah.
So 13. So that's when you actually started getting serious with the guitar.
Yeah.
And what style did you get serious with?
Mainly rock. So I would listen and play by ear.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's how I got started.
Yeah, that's usually the common story for the guitarist.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you played a lot of rock. Any influences that got you when you...
So my main influence, the most important one, was Santana. Because it was through him that I discovered a bunch of important names, really important names. Beyond Segovia. The first time I ever heard these names came from him through a video called Influences. Mm-hmm. So he would talk about Segovia, Paco de Lucia, Manitas de Plata, Joe Pass, Pat Martino, Wes Montgomery, Bola Sete, these names, all these guitarists which are important, very important guitarists, yeah.
Oh, so that's when you were still playing electric guitar, you got into Santana. Santana introduced you to what, a more classical or Spanish guitar guitarist. So from there, when did you transfer over to what is now the Spanish guitar or the flamenco guitar?
So roughly around sophomore, junior year is when I've discovered a book by Juan Serrano, which was one of the few methods around here.
Yeah. And
we pick it up differently than how it's traditionally picked up. We don't have the flamenco families, right? So anyway, I had that book, and then I would try to find any kind of repertory related to, say, Spanish guitar or flamenco guitar.
Yeah, I know what you mean by the flamenco family. Because right here, like same here, I think I know what book you're talking about because I probably had it too, and that's how I got into that style of music. But you're right, here that's how we get into it. That's how we're introduced individually because there's no real, schools of flamenco. You have to really search for it.
Yeah.
In Spain, they have like what it is, a familias, right?
Yeah, it's the crib. The crib.
Yeah, and I have a few students, not students, a few friends that actually studied in Spain, and they would go and they would stay with the family for like the whole summer, and all they did was play.
Yeah,
drill the guitar.
Probably the best education they can get.
Yeah, and it was not just, by watching and listening.
Right.
No, that's cool. So, so you started from, with flamenco from Santana into, hearing these names. led you into these books that taught you how to, teach yourself a bit of flamenco. And then from there, how did you, grow in it? How did you continue?
So still, there was a process of learning with anything I could absorb. VHS back then, still VHS, any CDs I could find, just about anything I could find. There was a place called, or a business called the Flamenco Connection that was based in Virginia, and they used to import VHS CDs and books and stuff like that. So I'd buy a few things from them. Okay. I think one of the main ones was La Guitarra Flamenco de Tomatito. That was a series called La Guitarra Flamenca.
So you're pretty much self-taught then when it comes to flamenco.
A big part, yeah, early on until I found Ted McCown locally in Orange. Michael Geraldine referred me to him. And I took some lessons with him, and then I found Jose Tanaka, LA-based flamenco guitarist. And through him, from there, every guitarist or instructor kind of leads you, gives you names, and then you go off into different paths. So I learned about Cañizares through Tanaka.
And who are these names?
Juan Manuel Cañizares is a very, very fine flamenco guitarist.
Local guitarist?
Oh, no, he's from Barcelona, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But he's just very fine. He used to play with Paco de Lucia.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So these names are also an education in of themselves, because you start to research them.
Yeah.
So that was a very big influence. And then from there, I took from when there was the New World Flamenco Festival at UCI, from people, from Canito, Jesus Torres, and then Jason McGuire also. I took one lesson. It was just, one lesson with each of these people. But they all provided something. Canito corrected my technique. He'd see me playing more like with classical positioning.
Yeah.
And he would remind me, that bring it away from the sound hole.
Yeah.
For example. So some of these things stuck, and some of these falsetas at least one that Canito taught us still stays.
Since we're at the topic of, because you played some flamenco, you played some classical as well. Can you just show us a few of the differences that he taught you? I'll get the guitar for you.
Sure. Okay.
So going back into, some of the lessons that you got, the difference between classical and flamenco. We'll get into a little bit of classical and what that means in a minute. But can you show us that difference of sound?
Sure. So just with the positioning from classical, I guess the hand tends to be placed more over the sound hole, and you do see guitarists maybe even go as far as to do like harmonics and stuff around outside beyond. But flamenco-wise, he was correcting me to bring it more towards this part here, and then that also falls in line with this type of technique when treating your thumb like a pick, and locking it at a 90, having this arch and playing more with the weight of the forearm. So there's more of this.
Yeah, okay, I see that. Yeah, it's definitely more of like using it like a pick. So you're not really moving your thumb.
Right.
When it comes, so going deeper into flamenco style, it's rhythmic. It's heavily rhythmic, right?
Very much.
Yeah. Who were your inspirations once you got into flamenco guitar? Who did you look into that really inspired you? What guitarists?
I leaned a lot on, well, I like Cañizares a lot. Early on, though, I would listen to, well, whatever was available, which is from the newer school.
Yeah.
So from Paco this way, Paco Lucia this way.
Like modern times?
Yeah.
Like today, yeah.
Although I listened to some Melchor de Marchena, Sabica's older stuff, but more closer to Paco coming forward was, I had Tomatito.
Okay.
I listened to Moraito. And I mentioned Cañizares and Gerardo Núñez. These are the names that were more visible at the time. They had recordings out.
Okay. And these styles and these performers, what are the differences between one? Is it more the tone quality or just the interpretation of a piece of music, or?
I think it's in some, at least in, let's say, the case of Tomatito and Moraito. Tomatito, he's got some great falsetas. Musically speaking, his ideas are, well, they were modern. Yeah. And then versus Moraito, well, you have to check out. He plays more groovy. Oh, he's got more of this groove. Yeah. So if you see him play, when Moraito's playing,
his movement
his feel is different. It's more laid back, and it has to do with styles or regions.
There was another question I was going to ask you regarding that. Oh yeah, because you're talking about the more modern from Paco de Lucia onward towards this time. What's the difference between that era and the era before Paco?
So Paco would add more harmonic language, like extended harmonies or jazz, if you want to call it that.
Well, he actually expanded himself. He didn't just strictly play flamenco all his life. He got into jazz. He got into different styles and performed with these groups too.
Right.
Yeah. So he actually he expanded the horizon of the instrument.
Yeah. I think it became more palatable for some people after listening to him or seeing what was possible with the guitar. And then more and more flamenco guys to this day just, started incorporating newer harmonies. And
by any chance, can you give us an example of old school flamenco versus the new school?
Well, something like that. It's a little more rigid, a little more versus okay, so this harmony is probably not traditional, not as traditional. D minor 7, that color is not as traditional.
Yeah.
So stuff like that.
They played more with the expanded harmonic. Where with the first one that you did, it was pretty much an E.
The chords are your traditional
E, A minor.
Didn't vary too much from that. And then nowadays you just kind of paint with newer sounds.
Yeah. Get a little jazzier too.
Could be in some cases. Yeah.
What about the rhythms?
So there's a lot more syncopation now. Mm-hmm. If you look at Yeray Cortez, you look at Diego del Moral, these guys are very, I guess at the present, they're the foremost, best examples, I think.
Yeah.
Not to forget Antonio Rey, of course, he's also very, very fine guitarist. I haven't even mentioned Vicente Amigo, I forgot about him.
Vicente Amigo.
He's before some of these newer guys. And they had new ways of playing. Vicente Amigo. How did it go? That was kind of novel at the time.
Yeah.
He was playing these triads, and then this doesn't even function inside of. It's only a half step above, but it doesn't function inside of. Naturally, this is where
it almost sounds a little metal.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Okay, that's really cool. And Paco de Lucia, you mentioned him as a dividing point. Was he in like a pinnacle point of where music changed in flamenco music?
I think if you see interviews with other guitarists or even musicologists, they would attribute or set a marker with Paco and coming forward.
What year was this? Around what era?
Looking at the 70s.
70s?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And just for, I should have probably asked this earlier. For those people that don't know much about flamenco, where does it come from? What's the point of the music? What's the foundation based on?
It comes from a marginalized group of people in southern Spain, in Andalusia, from the gypsies, from the gypsy people or the gitanos, and that the songs are born out of pain of a marginalized people.
Yeah, because there's a vocalists accompany. Well, actually, no, quite the contrary. The guitars accompany the vocalist.
It's always been that the song is the heart of it, and everything else it responds to it. Even the dance or the guitar was always played a secondary role, a supporting role to the cante. Mm-hmm. And if you see the cante, you understand it. You see what they're expressing.
Yeah.
It's in their face, it's in their throat, it's in their heart.
But it's also accompanied too by dancers, often too, or is that more of
another form of expression within the total expression that is flamenco. No. It's the dancer replying or interpreting what is being sung.
Oh, okay.
Is what it ought to be. Que fatiga más grande ahí ya tané el andaba.
When did the guitar get also like the solo, like the front man?
That's a great question. That's a good question. I was just watching some documentaries on this, and I can't give you a precise answer, but it did take on this evolution of where it started to be more of a concert instrument from Savicas around his time.
Okay.
He's said that he was one to kind of bring the guitar out. I was watching this interview with somebody who said that at one point there were no like concert flamenco guitars.
Before sabicas?
I believe, yeah. Yeah, so I gotta check my history on that.
Sabicas or sabicas?
Sabicas.
Sabicas.
I have to check my history. With post Sabicas, and then I just saw a documentary on Niño Miguel. He's a very important guitarist. He's been kind of forgotten in history, but I learned about him late.
Maybe I'll make sure I put a picture of him up on the video. Me being a guitarist, I'm a little biased, but it seems that when people think of flamenco, they think of the guitar primarily.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think most people, the general public that doesn't know much about the style of music, when they think flamenco guitar. You being in the world, does it feel that way to you too, or do you feel like you're still secondary, like the vocalist is still primary, or do you perform more as a soloist?
I perform more as a soloist. I made that decision, that conscious decision, to be more of a soloist. Would rather.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tricky question because it's originally a familiar affair, and very much a nucleus, a family nucleus is what it is. And
yeah.
So for some, it might just mean something. It might mean family.
Oh, okay.
Flamenco might mean family, del tío, la tía, el primo.
Yeah. Okay.
It might have that kind of meaning, but from an outsider's point of view, I guess it depends on what your discipline is. I think in some contexts, and including out here, I think cante is kind of forgotten. It needs to be cultivated, I think, in this, where we're at.
Yeah. And then that's what I mean about the people that are around here that I'm surrounded with, mostly in California.
Oh,
it's just in the U.S.
Cante is crucial.
Yeah, I mean, I personally love it, especially seeing the whole thing combined, all three, the dancer, the singer, and the percussionist and guitarist. What about the styles of flamenco, like the different compás that each piece is based off of? Can you show us the difference between bulerías, a fandango?
So bulerías are a little more livelier. They're more festive. So it's a little more
awesome.
It's a little livelier.
Yeah.
And they're fun to play, and they're syncopated. And a fandango is slower. It's a slower form in 3. If we're talking about a fandango de Huelva, for example. This cadence, typical cadence.
Okay.
It's part of a fandango. It's slower. It's in 3.
Yeah. What about just showing us the basic rhythmic pattern of flamenco? Let's say you were gonna teach somebody a basic flamenco strum.
Strum?
Or maybe not the strum, but the pattern.
Well, let's say por soleares, maybe we could start with something like. So the important thing here is to get the 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is typical 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What I'm doing there is emphasizing 6, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I did on the 7, 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, and what I'm doing here is tapping on 8 and 10. Those
so
are
you're counting 12 beats per a bar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So it's not a 6/8. It's not a. It's.
So when you see it, it's better to just think of it until when first comes the practice, and then someone writes it down and puts it in 6/8 or 3/4
or whatever
like
rhythmic pattern. Oh, okay, but as somebody that's learning it, you want to count it in 12.
Yeah, and it's because it's from an oral tradition. It's important to understand it this way too, instead of just relying like on notation, which is probably further away from what it ought to be.
Very cool. So you've been playing for how long now?
I've been playing for about 30 years. Not flamenco, but just guitar in general.
Guitar in general. And you do have your degrees in music too. You went to school for... Can you explain those? What did you go for school
So
for?
I did composition and musicology.
Okay.
As disciplines, as areas of interest.
But always still focused on guitar, flamenco guitar while studying, or?
So everything I wanted to do music-wise, especially with classical guitar or jazz guitar, all of that was meant to be for the sake of applying it to flamenco.
Oh, okay.
And then composition and musicology kind of took me in a different path. I found different passions within those things, those areas of discipline. But it's interesting to see nowadays people like yourself, and I've seen some other flamenco guys that are like turning into musicologists too. You know, they're very fine players. They perform, and now they're doing interviews of their own. You know, like their own video.
Yeah, it's that interest of it's the more you explore, the more you realize like, oh, there's some cool stuff out there. You just want to keep digging into it. And then you realize like, oh, there's some cool stuff that is not recorded, that is not written down. People like you, people like, we have a lot of friends that, they have something to share. So that's why I completely understand, because the more I dig deeper into knowing more of other styles and other people, the more I got not sidetracked, but expanded from just playing and performing to wanting to record. And, I never studied musicology, but it's something that always interested me. Cool. So Omar, any last words that you have or that you think would be beneficial for the listeners?
The names out there I think are necessary to feed oneself, to absorb their stories. Like I said, today I was watching a documentary on Niño Miguel, and it's a sad story.
Niño Miguel, he was a guitarist.
Yeah, he's very, very fine. Turned out he was probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, but unsung. And just, let's see, I'd say listen to Diego del Moral, Yeray Cortez.
Oh, these are names that you recommend people should listen to.
Yeah, if you're interested in flamenco,
Can you name those again one more time so I could...
Diego del Moral, Yeray Cortez, Antonio Rey. These are some of the newer guys. Niño Seve is one that I like. And then some of the names there are a must, that are historic names, like Manolo Sanlúcar, Enrique de Melchor, Paco Cepero, Paco Peña, Paco Serrano. These are part of my learning. Yeah. But also names that deserve a listen.
Listen and recognition. Yeah, because I know that that's something that you're equally passionate like myself, is sharing these names that seem to be almost forgotten or not as recognized. And I know
I think it's important sorry to interrupt. I think it's important to look for local people too. There's some interesting, you'll find some interesting talents that are not just in Spain, you know, or not just from Andalusia.
Do you have anybody in town that you might think about?
Well, I'd be remiss if I don't mention Adam del Monte.
Okay.
He's a very fine player. I took one lesson with him. Just footnote.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't remember me either. He doesn't remember me. But Jose Tanaka, obviously, he was very, very, very dedicated. He was my teacher for a bit.
Oh, nice. So, and these are still performing guitarists?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. So, yeah, definitely I have to list those.
And I'm missing some people. But you'll find some interesting players, local players.
Cool. So, just a few last words for people that want to get started in playing flamenco guitar. What do you suggest? What do you recommend?
Absorb everything you can. You know, maybe find a teacher. You're gonna have to use the proper technique, and you might have to have someone help you with your right hand technique and your form. I forgot to mention Lito Espinosa, who I studied with in Sevilla, who corrected my technique, my thumb technique. He helped me with that. And, and that was important. Ever since then, it's, you know, apply more of the proper technique versus.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, last few questions. Just little side notes of who Omar is. How long do you practice?
I practice as often as I can, as much as I can.
And you live in California right now, right? But you go back and forth between Mexico and...
So I'm dividing my time between Orizaba, Veracruz, and home here, Santana.
And you have projects coming up too?
I would like to be more active with these kinds of things. I need to record more.
Record more.
Put stuff out, you know.
Yeah. Before I forget, last few things about the music that you're performing for us. Can you name those two pieces?
So the first piece is called Khalife. It's a tangos dedicated to a musical person, a composer named Marcel Khalife. And the other piece is an alegría, which I call Tu Sonrisa, your smile.
Cool. Okay. So listen to those. He'll be on here in a few minutes performing his two original compositions.